Enemy ships are here. My cities are burning. There are no troops. These were the frantic final words of a dying world, a time when trade routes fell silent, kings were murdered in their own beds, and civilization itself went dark. We think of ancient Egypt as eternal, unbreakable, but even eternity has an expiration date. How did the greatest empire on earth simply fall apart? The truth is terrifying. Because the Golden Age did not end in fire. It ended quietly.
When Ramses the Great finally died, Egypt did not look like a civilization on the brink of disaster. It looked eternal. Temples stretched along the Nile. Colossal statues towered above cities and fields. Inscriptions proclaimed victories carved so deeply into stone that they seemed impossible to erase. Nothing appeared broken. And that was the danger. Empires rarely collapse when they look weak. They collapse when they look permanent. Beneath the gold and granite, Egypt was already cracking. The institutions that had once made the empire strong were becoming rigid. The priesthood had grown untouchable. The bureaucracy no longer served the state, it fed on it. And beyond Egypt's borders, the ancient world itself was beginning to fail. Within a single lifetime, cities would burn and never be rebuilt. Trade routes that had connected continents for centuries would fall silent. Entire populations would begin to move, not to conquer, but simply to survive. This is not yet the story of the fall of the Bronze Age. This is the story of how Egypt first felt the ground shift beneath its feet. And it begins with an old man who never expected to rule. Ramses II lived too long. He outlived his generals. He outlived his rivals. He outlived the sons he had trained to succeed him. When he finally died, the crown passed not to a prepared heir, but to his 13th son, Merneptah, a man already in his 60s. He had spent his entire life in the shadow of a living god, never believing the throne would truly be his. Merneptah likely hoped for a quiet reign, stability, continuity, perhaps even rest. Instead, almost immediately, Egypt faced a crisis unlike anything it had seen before.
From the west came a massive coalition of Libyan tribes. But these were not the familiar desert raiders of the past. They did not arrive lightly armed, hoping to steal grain and vanish back into the sands. They arrived with their families, with carts and wagons, with livestock and household goods. They were not attacking. They were migrating. Their lands were failing. The old balance that had sustained life across the Mediterranean world was breaking down. And they did not come alone. Fighting alongside the Libyans were warriors from across the sea, peoples the Egyptians called the Sea Peoples, the Sherden, the Shekelesh, the Ekwesh, the Teresh. To Egyptian eyes, they looked unfamiliar and unsettling. They fought differently. They wore distinctive helmets. They carried long, heavy swords. Many of them wore extensive armor, protection that Egyptian infantry rarely possessed. To Egyptian soldiers trained for traditional warfare, it felt as if the rules had changed. Despite his age, Merneptah was still a son of Ramses the Great. He mobilized the army and met the invaders in the western delta. The fighting was brutal. The stakes were existential. Against expectation, Egypt won. The coalition was crushed. The Nile Valley was saved, for now. But the aftermath revealed how deeply the age had changed. In traditional warfare, Egyptian soldiers counted enemy dead by cutting off their hands. But these invaders were foreigners. To prove it,
Merneptah ordered a different accounting. The victory was recorded in a way meant to send a message: Egypt was still dangerous. To commemorate the triumph, Merneptah erected a great stone stele. Near the bottom, almost as a footnote, appears a name that would echo through history. Israel is laid waste, its seed is no more. A single line carved into stone during a moment of crisis, the first historical mention of Israel. But Merneptah's victory was only a temporary barrier against a rising tide.
After his death, Egypt began to unravel. Short-lived kings followed one another in rapid succession. Authority weakened, legitimacy fractured. At one point, a foreign usurper even seized the throne, an unthinkable humiliation for a civilization built on divine kingship. Civil war followed. The carefully balanced system that Ramses II had held together through sheer longevity began to fall apart. Local governors grew independent. The priesthood accumulated land and wealth. The central administration lost control. Eventually, a new strongman restored order. His name was Ramses III. He deliberately chose that name to summon memories of past glory, but symbols could not reverse reality. Ramses III ruled a fundamentally different world. The international trade network that had sustained the Bronze Age was breaking down. Supplies became unreliable. Weapons and tools wore out faster than they could be replaced. Food shortages followed. Famine bred unrest. Unrest drove migration.
The old system was dying. In the 8th year of Ramses III's reign, the storm returned. A massive confederation arrived by land and sea, entire communities on the move. Not raiders seeking loot, but settlers seeking survival. Elsewhere, they succeeded. The Hittite Empire vanished, its capital burned, its archives destroyed, its language disappeared for centuries. At the port city of Ugarit, archaeologists later found clay tablets still inside ovens, letters written by scribes who never escaped. Enemy ships are here. My cities are burning. There are no troops. The letters were never sent. Egypt was next. Ramses III knew he could not defeat the invaders on open water, so he turned geography into a weapon. He allowed the enemy fleet to enter the narrow mouths of the Nile. As their heavy ships crowded the channels, Egyptian vessels boxed them in. Archers rose from the reeds and riverbanks. What followed was not a battle. It was an execution. Egypt survived.
But survival came at a terrible cost. Victory did not restore prosperity. The treasury was empty. Trade never recovered. And for the first time in history, we hear the voices of ordinary people. In the Valley of the Kings, the artisans carving royal tombs stopped receiving their grain rations. Weeks passed, then months. They were hungry. And then something unprecedented happened. They laid down their tools. They walked off the job. It was the first recorded labor strike in human history. The workers marched to the temples, shouting words preserved by scribes. We are hungry. We have no clothes, no oil, no vegetables. Officials panicked. They attempted bribes and delays. The workers refused. They knew the grain existed. It was being stolen. The social contract that had sustained Egypt for centuries was broken. After the death of Ramses III, Egypt did not collapse overnight. It decayed.
The kings who followed were weak and short-lived. Ramses IV, Ramses V, Ramses VI. 3 pharaohs in just over a decade, each reign shorter than the last, each one inheriting less authority than his predecessor. The state could no longer maintain appearances. Royal tombs were no longer built from scratch. Later kings reused and cut apart older tombs, carving their names over the dead, abandoning decoration halfway through construction. Even eternity was now done on a budget. Administrative offices became hereditary. Inspectors stopped traveling. Reports stopped arriving. Order stopped being enforced. In Thebes, something unthinkable happened. Wild animals returned. Hyenas were seen on the hills overlooking the city, a sign to the Egyptians that Mot itself was failing. Order was retreating. Chaos was returning. Egypt still had kings, but it no longer had control. Corruption spread everywhere.
Priests sold fake sacred mummies to pilgrims. Bureaucrats siphoned grain meant for the gods. Sacred animals were sold for meat. And finally, the rot reached the palace itself. Ramses III did not die in glory. He was murdered. A minor wife, Queen Tia, conspired to place her son on the throne. Palace officials were bribed. Black magic was used. Wax figures were crafted to curse guards. For centuries, historians believed the plot failed. Modern scans revealed the truth. Ramses III's throat was cut so deeply that the blade reached his spine. The last great warrior king of Egypt died in his bed. What followed was slow decay. Weak kings, lost territories, economic collapse. Desperation drove people to rob the tombs of their ancestors. Royal mummies were stripped and burned for scraps of gold. Eternal life was sacrificed for survival.
In a final act of preservation, the high priests of Amun gathered the bodies of Egypt's greatest kings, Ramses II, Seti I, Thutmose III, and hid them in secret caches. That is why we have them today. Egypt survived, but the world that had made Egypt great was gone. The Age of Bronze was ending. In the next chapter, we will step back, away from Egypt, and look at the entire ancient world. Why did so many civilizations collapse at once? What forces shattered a system that had lasted for centuries? And could something like this ever happen again? Because Egypt did not face the coming storm alone, and neither did the rest of the world.